The story begins with a man introducing himself as Carl Mormont. He's a mercenary and asks, "What is this place?" Another man responds. His name is Lyle, and he runs a woodshop in Adora. He doesn't know where they are either. A blonde guy named Grit speaks up next. He works at an antique store in Halcea and is just as clueless about their location. Then, a girl with long red hair named Jenna says she was living in a remote forest before ending up here. She's also confused. Lastly, a handsome guy named Han, a farmer, says he has no idea what's going on either. In total, there are 11 people, all confused about why they're in this huge place surrounded by high walls. One person wonders if they were dragged here by a magician, but Carl dismisses this as nonsense. Suddenly, a small fairy appears. She greets them and says her master is about to open a space-time rift, so they should get ready to fight. Everyone is surprised by the fairy. They ask her name and what's happening. The fairy introduces herself as Yslat, a manager of this place. She orders everyone to stay in line if they don't want to get hurt. Carl, the mercenary, gets angry. He asks if Yslat is the one who brought them here. Yslat asks why he wants to know. Carl, furious, draws his sword and threatens to make her talk. Yslat warns him that if he wants to die, she can arrange that. Carl taunts her, calling her a yapping tiny thing. Smiling, Yslat watches as Carl charges at her. With a swift move, Yslat kills him by cutting his neck. A message appears, "Mercenary is dead. Cause of death, suicide from stress." Everyone is shocked. Yslat tells them to listen to her. If anyone disobeys or touches her, they'll end up like Carl. She claims it's self-defense. The group starts shouting in confusion and fear. Yslat tells them to follow her orders, fight well, and win. She says it's easy. Suddenly, a message appears, "Forming party heroes, drag and drop." Yslat looks at it. The message states that 5 members have joined Party 1. The Master has started operating. Yslat tells them to get ready as she opens a space-time rift gate. The gate opens, and Party 1 members are stunned. Yslat instructs them to enter the gate if they don't want to end up like Carl. Han speaks up, suggesting to Yslat that they need weapons if they're going to fight, pointing out they are just 1-stars without basic equipment. Jenna looks puzzled at Han's words. Han explains to Yslat that a valuable 2-star hero just died. He asks if she can at least provide them with weapons. Yslat considers Han's words, glances at Carl's body, and agrees. She tells the Master that the heroes need equipment for a better battle and gives tips to summon weapons. The story continues with the group still trying to understand their strange situation. A man asks Han, "What do you know about this place?" Han replies that he doesn't know much either, as he hasn't been here long. Jenna listens and thinks Han might have arrived before them. Han shares what he knows. "The only thing I know for sure is that we can die if we're too slow. It's best if we grab a weapon. The battle is starting soon." The others are shocked to hear about the impending battle. They complain that they've never fought before, not even as kids. Han urges them, first pick a weapon, then think. They grab their weapons, and the fairy commands them to enter the gate. The first person to touch the gate is surprised by its feel. The fairy snaps, "Stop dilly-dallying and go in already." Han picks up a shield while Jenna watches, wondering why he's examining it amid the chaos. She also considers taking a shield for herself. She asks Han, "What's going to happen? Why do we need weapons? Where are we? And what's with the fairy?" Han, frustrated, responds, "Why are you asking so many questions? We just have to go into battle and kill all the enemies. Figure out the rest yourself." Suddenly, a message appears that only Han can see. The heroes from Party 1 who entered the gate have died. Jenna notices his reaction. "What's wrong?" she asks. Han thinks they died because they were all 1-star heroes. Jenna asks again, but Han tells her to be quiet. He's lost in thought, realizing that Party 1 has already been wiped out. The fairy is furious, calling them useless bastards for failing on the first floor. The master forms another party. This time, Han, Jenna, and 3 others join Party 1. The fairy commands them to step forward. Han tells Jenna, "Next is our turn." Jenna asks why the previous group hasn't returned yet. An old man from Party 1 complains to the fairy that he can't walk anymore because of arthritis. Jenna retorts, "You were walking just fine earlier." Jenna looks to Han, who is determined, and decides to help the old man survive together. Han leads the new Party 1, but aside from him and Jenna, the others are cowards with no fighting experience and they complain constantly. They enter the gate and find themselves in a temple. They see the main dungeon and the challenge floor is labeled as Floor 1. Han shouts, "Be ready. The gate is opening. Don't space out." They appear on Floor 1, a field. The party is shocked by their surroundings. The quest type is subjugation, and the objective is to eliminate all level 3 goblins. Han warns, "If you don't fight, you will die. Get your head on straight." Suddenly, 3 members drop their weapons and run. Jenna shouts at the old man, "I thought you had arthritis," but he runs too. Jenna, frightened, sees her stats decrease by 30%, along with the others. They hit a wall and can't escape the battlefield. Han, angry, watches them run and Jenna asks, "If we defeat the goblins, can we leave?" Han asks, "Do you know how to shoot?" Jenna replies, "My father taught me. He was a hunter." Han decides, "I'll fight up close while you shoot from the back." Jenna asks about the other 3 members, and Han dismisses them as useless. The goblins approach. The truth is, Han has never wielded a sword or shield before. As the goblins attack, Han uses his shield to defend himself, and Jenna shoots arrows from the back. Only Han and Jenna are fighting, while the other 3 cower in fear. Pick Me Up is a mobile game by Mobius Corp. The goal is to raid a 100-level tower, support heroes by producing materials, and build a base camp. Players need to clear the tower using tactics and strategy. Just yesterday, Han was living a normal life, playing this game on his phone. When the Advent dungeon opened, he thought, "Finally, this crappy game has a real event." Heroes in the game range from 1 star to 7 stars. Han was unlucky, never getting above a 5-star hero, even after thousands of tries. The dungeon drops the rare Book of Fate Reversal, needed for 7-star heroes, but it's so rare that it hardly seems worth it. Pick Me Up is different from other games because if a character dies, they're gone for good. It doesn't matter if they're 1 star or 6 star. Scouting dungeons with a disposable party is necessary. Han started an adventure when the new dungeon opened. Suddenly, warning messages appeared, and everyone in Party 3 felt fear, decreasing their stats by 30%. Han wondered why they were so scared. In the game, the hero Diora suggested retreating, but Han wanted to see the boss's patterns. Then, a level 999 monster appeared and killed his hero. Han thought it was a bug. A game over message appeared. It had to be a system error because his heroes were wiped out before he could see the monster's patterns. The monster in the game even seemed to mock him, saying, "Found you." Han got scared, thinking it was another in-game trick. Then, his screen went black and a message appeared, creating a new account and asking for a name. Han wasn't typing, but someone else was. "Welcome to the world of Pick Me Up," it said. The tutorial message promised a reward upon completion. To his shock, Han was now in the game, in a small village in the Hyam territory. He was a boy named Han Yslat, in a land where humans and non-humans lived in harmony. An unknown enemy had invaded this peaceful continent. As the player, Han now had to save the world by climbing the tower, with many heroes alongside him. The first tutorial quest was to defeat the goblins invading the village. Han saw goblins in front of him and realized this was real. A goblin attacked, and he defended himself with a sword. With a push, he disarmed and killed it. Han, a one-star hero, leveled up and began to wonder if he was really inside the game. Then, a message appeared, Master, before continuing, try pulling for an ally. Please touch the Summon tab in your menu. The summoning door opened, and a 4-star hero named Shay appeared. She was a rare knight. Shay asked who Han was, and he introduced himself. She introduced herself too. The Master then formed a party with Han, 1-star, and Shay, 4-star. They were thrown into a dungeon to fight goblins. Shay asked if Han was a beginner because of his lack of form. He admitted it was his first time. Unlike him, Shay defeated 5 goblins instantly with her superior skills. Despite the 3-star difference, Han didn't complain. But the real challenge was what came next. The Master asked, the hero has finished their battle, and the last tutorial is synthesis, and the door opened. Han got scared because he thought he was going to be synthesized into a 4-star hero. The fairy commanded him to move to the synthesis room. He called her name Yslat, and she was shocked that he knew her name. She asked who he was. He said his name was Han Yslat. The fairy found his name in the book, but noted he looked different from the picture. He told her he was born in Seoul, Korea. She was shocked and wondered how he got here. He asked to be sent back, but she insisted he go into the synthesis room. The Master started the synthesis. Han's hands shined, and he got scared. Synthesis strengthens heroes by combining 2 together, sacrificing one to boost the other's stats. One hero is guaranteed to be destroyed. Since he was a 1-star and Shay was a 4-star knight, he thought he was going to die. A message appeared, synthesis complete, but he didn't die. Shay disappeared into light. She said she wasn't chosen and smiled as she vanished. Han was shocked but relieved he survived. In the next battle, one party member died fighting goblins. Han warned Jenna not to let her guard down. Jenna and he kept fighting goblins. Han realized he survived because the Master made a mistake while dragging and dropping heroes for synthesis. He was lucky, and Shay died due to this error. As expected of a crappy game, Han shouted to Jenna about the last 2 goblins. She dealt with one, and then a goblin attacked his shoulder. Han didn't know how he got summoned into Pick Me Up, but he knew he, Han Yslat, was now a 1-star hero named Han Yslat. He attacked the goblin with his shield, determined to survive. Before entering this world, the level 999 bug monster was laughing. Han knew it was the reason he was in the game. After the battle, Jenna and he defeated all the goblins. Jenna worried about his hand, but he assured her he'd be fine when they returned. The player has minimal control during battles, which are mostly automated. Despite this, the game had a global player base of 100 million users. People liked watching it like gods. Han found it funny because he was once a user who enjoyed Pick Me Up. Crafting items, strategy, nurturing heroes, and discovering hidden elements kept him hooked. Even if it was a crappy game, he wouldn't give up. Han ranked 5th in the world. His game name was Loki, Master of Masters. He was determined to survive until the end. After clearing the stage, Jenna leveled up, and Han was the MVP. The other heroes died in the battle. Only Jenna and Han survived. Han has come to accept his situation. At the training ground, Han runs, preparing for what's to come. It's time to stop acting like a baby. He knows no one will save him. He's currently inside Pick Me Up, reborn and summoned as a 1-star hero. In this game, heroes die in 2 ways, in combat or through synthesis. As a 1-star hero, Han knows he's considered useless. 1-star heroes have terrible stats and low growth potential. At this rate, he won't escape the threat of being synthesized. Currently, Han's stats are 1-star, LV5, experience 44/50. He knows he needs to get stronger. Surviving, getting revenge, returning home. All are impossible if he doesn't grow stronger. This situation reminds him of his mandatory military service. After running, Han does sit-ups to build physical strength. He knows it's not enough to be physically strong. He needs mental fortitude to survive without getting nervous. He trains with his sword, remembering how he survived alone as a child without parents or anyone to protect him. He recalls that restlessness and pushes himself harder with push-ups. Jenna approaches and asks what he's doing. Han explains he's training to kill monsters. Jenna reveals she thought about what to do all night. They can't just leave. Her father was a hunter, and she used to shoot arrows in her spare time. Doing nothing and crying won't change anything, so she asks Han how they can survive here. Han asks if yesterday was her first real combat experience. She confirms it was, having stayed indoors all the time. Han asks how good she is with a bow. Jenna's stats are 1 star, LV2, experience 520, skill, beginner archer. Han checks her status and notices she gained 4 experience points after yesterday. Despite her low growth value, she has a prerequisite skill even as a 1 star. Though she was sloppy in her first combat, she managed to shoot and kill a goblin. She has a clear goal and isn't caught up in fear. Han sees potential in her and calls her a gem. Han agrees to help Jenna. She extends her hand and recalls her father's advice. To survive, pick the right person to follow. She asks Han to take care of her. This creates a friendship bonus between them, granting party bonuses when they're together. Han calls out to Yslat, the fairy. She appears annoyed, saying she's busy. Han retorts that she appeared quickly for someone busy. She tells him not to call her and to climb the tower if he wants answers. Han mentions he can see her level, surprising her. He deduces that only he can see game messages, including the Master's. Han asks what happens if the Master quits the game. Yslat says to pray they don't. The incident when the Master combined him and Shay was a rare misinput. A 4-star hero has a 1% chance in a free summon, and they wasted it. Pick Me Up is linked to the phone, so it can't be reset easily. It's been a week since they started. Han asks if time flows differently here than on Earth. Yslat gets mad and tells him to stop asking questions. Han deduces from her reaction that time indeed flows differently. He notices Yslat can't touch heroes directly and only interferes for self-defense or when a hero rejects orders. Han knows he must understand these rules to survive. Jenna asks Han about his interaction with the fairy. Han explains they need to climb the 100-floor tower, following the Master's orders through Yslat. Completing this will release them. Jenna worries they'll continuously fight monsters. Han reassures her they need to get stronger, and the Master will summon more people. After training for a day, Han discovers a fun rule. Necessities and food are replenished daily, and items he thinks about appear in drawers or closets the next day, except for things like guns. Training doesn't increase stats or levels, but grants skills and refines abilities. He realizes the heroes aren't just AI. Skilled masters categorize heroes into 3 categories: panic resistance, skill, and physique. Han works on his physique, training for 3 days. The Master logs in after 3 days. Han tells Jenna to prepare. The Master summons 3 new heroes: Aaron, Toby, and Yelsens. These heroes complain about their situation. Jenna instructs them to get weapons, offering to teach them. The fairy opens the space-time gate, and the 3 new heroes join Party 1, Han and Jenna. Han advises Jenna to arm herself quickly. A system message warns that heroes without equipment will enter battle with an old iron sword, F. He tells Jenna to let the newcomers learn on their own. The new heroes complain, but Jenna calms them down, warning it will be worse if they mess with the fairy. The fairy, Yslat, drags them to the gate and commands them to complete the mission. Floor 2's objective is to wipe out all enemies. Han and Jenna, with the 3 new heroes, face goblins and wolves. The newcomers are scared, decreasing their stats by 30%. Han saw the goblins and wolves coming. "Jenna, focus," he shouted, surprising her. "You take care of the goblins. I'll handle the wolves." Jenna nodded, shaking off her fear. Han knew the others wouldn't help, so he faced a wolf charging at him. With effort, he swung his dull sword and managed to split the wolf in two. Even though it was tough, Han and Jenna kept fighting. Han killed one wolf, but another one suddenly attacked him from behind. Han quickly used his shield to defend and swung his sword, but the wolf jumped back and dodged. Han then ran forward, swung his sword again, and killed the wolf. Han checked on the goblins and saw they were all dead from Jenna's arrows. Jenna was still shooting at them, so Han stopped her since the goblins were already dead. The mission was finished, and both Han and Jenna leveled up, with Han being the MVP. They returned to the lobby and were congratulated on clearing the second floor. As they ascended to the third floor, the lobby started moving, surprising Jenna. Han explained it was the same as when they went up to the second floor, and now they had to go to the third floor. Han was relieved they didn't have to go to the third floor right away because their master had logged out. The fairy, looking tired, mentioned being exhausted, which confused Han since she hadn't been in the battle. Han pondered the time difference between the floors and the waiting room, thinking they should log back in after 3 days. His intelligence decreased by 1, but his strength increased by 2, showing his physical improvement. Han thought about the 2 new recruits, who were still complaining about being there and fighting. Han reflected that 1-star recruits were ordinary people not used to battle, while higher-star heroes, like him, had more combat experience. He noted that low-level recruits would panic in battle, unlike the 3-star and above heroes who would fight right away. Han wondered if higher-level recruits knew their purpose and mission, suspecting they did. Jenna, tired of explaining things to the newcomers, asked Han for help. Han didn't want to waste time on them, but Jenna insisted they should be made into teammates. Han believed they would soon disappear anyway, not because they'd be killed, but because they wouldn't survive if they didn't adapt. A newcomer approached Han angrily, pulling his shirt, but Han punched him down, telling him we had been risking our lives while the newcomers did nothing. Han then told Jenna he did what she wanted. The next day, Han and Jenna trained with weapons after basic exercises. Han practiced with a wooden sword, while Jenna used her bow. Despite some injuries, they continued training hard. Han's proficiency in both sword and shield increased. When their master logged back in, the fairy called the heroes to the square. Jenna, excited, had adapted quickly to the new environment. Meanwhile, the newcomers were still complaining, prompting the fairy to angrily deal with them. On the third floor, the quest was to eliminate all enemies. With improved gear and tactics, Han and Jenna fought as trained. They cleared the floor, with Jenna being the MVP again. Feeling bored, Jenna noted the newcomers still didn't plan on fighting. Han didn't mind, as he didn't want to share experience points with them. A message appeared, suggesting using the Wheel of Fortune to deal with disobedient heroes. The master restarted on the first floor, which was a safer mission. They cleared it again with Jenna as MVP, then the master started it again. Han knew their master wouldn't let them rest if they cleared it too easily. They continued clearing floors, with Han and Jenna taking turns as MVP. Jenna, tired, wondered if the master would start the floor again. Han, also tired, was curious about what would happen next. Jenna worried about dealing with the newcomers, but Han reassured her it was over. When the master initiated synthesis, the newcomers were shocked. Han knew they would die because they couldn't seize the opportunity given to them. The synthesis room opened, and the newcomers were deemed useless. The master, who could see everything on the screen, knew who fought hard and who didn't. The fairy ordered the newcomers to enter the synthesis room. One newcomer, scared and confused, asked Han what would happen. Han explained that the master decided their fate based on their contributions. Since the newcomer did nothing, he would be synthesized. The newcomer protested, saying he had done nothing wrong and was dragged here for no reason. He was terrified, knowing he had been useless in battle. The synthesis process began, and the newcomer was synthesized into Jenna, leveling her up and giving her the Hawkeye skill. Jenna was shocked as the newcomer turned into light and disappeared. Han explained that those who are useless die as sacrifices. It was now Han's turn. The fairy announced that the next to be synthesized were Han and Toby, the most vocal complainer. Toby, frightened and in shock, shouted that he wanted to go home. The synthesis process completed, and Toby turned into light and disappeared, leveling up Han and giving him the composure skill. Han told the remaining newcomer that he was lucky to be spared. Jenna wondered if the master thought she might become useless too. Han reassured her that she wouldn't be left behind if she kept improving. He explained that as they reached higher levels, they would face stronger monsters and players, so they had to keep fighting. They would either die to enemies or as sacrifices. Jenna asked Han how he knew so much. Han advised her to follow her father's advice and stay close to those who were strong. The next day, at the training ground, Jenna approached Han and asked him to look out for her. Her father had always told her to stick close to strong allies. Han was a bit surprised but reassured her that she wouldn't die if she worked hard and stayed focused. The remaining newcomer, feeling ashamed, came up to Han. He apologized for his previous behavior and admitted he was wrong for not fighting with them. He asked Han to look out for him as well. Han questioned if he could be trusted and asked if he had ever fought a monster. The newcomer admitted he had not. So Han handed him a spear and said he, too, had never fought before coming here. He encouraged the newcomer to practice with the spear. Jenna was pleased that they now had a balanced party. A sword hero, a spear hero, and an arrow hero. Han explained that this was the best way to work as a small team and told the newcomer to get ready for battle. The newcomer was shocked to be thrown into a fight without proper training. Han attacked him, and the newcomer, scared, fought back with his eyes closed. Han kicked him and warned him not to close his eyes during a fight, or he would die. The newcomer, stressed and hurt, vomited. Han told him that if he had been a real monster, the newcomer would already be dead. Jenna thought Han was being too harsh, but Han explained that he couldn't afford to care for those who couldn't keep up. He asked the newcomer if he had family, and the newcomer mentioned his little sister. Han, who had no family, pointed his sword at the newcomer and said that dying to a monster would be far worse than being synthesized. He used this to motivate the newcomer to fight harder. The master started building an annex to the armory, allowing the heroes to move freely, and a blacksmith became available. Han called out to the fairy, who was annoyed by being ordered around. Han knew the fairy sent tips to the master and asked if she could use the internet. She could, and browsing the web was her hobby. The tips she sent were from strategy forums. Han recognized them from posts by Loki on the Pick Me Up official forum. The fairy was surprised Han knew about Loki. Han revealed that he was also a Pick Me Up player. The fairy explained that Loki was a top player and the god of Pick Me Up. She admired Loki a lot and said Loki would have been ranked first if he had a 7-star hero. Han then told the fairy that he was Loki, the master of masters in the Pick Me Up game. Han reveals that he is actually Loki, but the fairy can't believe it. To prove it, Han tells the fairy his account ID. He explains that due to hacking or system security, only the account holder and server managers would know the pickup account number. Han asks her to check for herself if she doesn't believe him. He even offers to give her his Google account details to further prove his identity. The fairy checks the account ID and confirms it is true. She gets very excited and asks Han for his autograph so she can become a top member of the Ragnar Loki Club. Han is confused since he doesn't know about this club. The fairy explains that you can become a top member by getting Loki's autograph. She apologizes for saying bad things to the real Loki all along. Han tells her he is just a beginner, so don't worry. The fairy then asks what will happen to Niflheim without him. Han doesn't know what will happen. Niflheim is the name of the lounge in Han's account. It has 13 floors, can hold 20,000 people, and most of its buildings are high-level, endgame structures. The fairy is shocked about the 20,000 troops. Han suggests that if she is worried, she could send him back. But the fairy can't do that because she is just an intermediary manager. Han asks if the game owner is human and if the heroes are real people. The fairy explains that this world is different but real, and the heroes are actual people. The game's master doesn't know this and just enjoys playing the game. The heroes face many dangers for the master's amusement. Han then asks if he can return to Earth if he reaches the 100th floor, but the fairy doesn't know. He also asks who brought him here, but she can't answer that either. Han decides he will find out by climbing the tower. He asks how much of the master's authority the fairy can access. The fairy explains that she can give advice, manage facilities, and assist with activities. She also mentions that there are millions of worlds like this. The system that created heroes is a lie. They are real people. Han realizes his careless decisions in the game could lead to a hero's death. Han tells the fairy to listen to him since he will let her climb. She is excited and admires him. At the training ground, Jenna is training. She is a genius and quickly masters daggers. Eren, on the other hand, is struggling and might die soon. Jenna tries to go easy on him, but it isn't enough. Han tells her to stop being arrogant and follow him. Jenna asks if he won't teach his number 1 subordinate today. Suddenly, the fairy shouts back, claiming she is Han's number 1 subordinate. They argue. Han stops the fairy and tells her to work, but she keeps shouting at Jenna, claiming to be Han's top subordinate. Jenna is surprised and scared of the fairy. Han asks the fairy to open the warehouse, and she does using her power. Inside, Han takes iron or leather and wooden planks. He then asks the fairy to open the forge. Jenna wonders what Han is doing. Han explains that they can't keep using the old iron sword forever. He realizes he can talk with the fairy because he is half master, half hero, which means making weapons is possible. The fairy wonders what kind of weapons Han will make in a place like this. Making weapons here is difficult, and if he fails, Han will face penalties due to insufficient facilities, no artisan, and no blueprints. But Han continues despite the fairy's surprise at the penalties. Normally, masters don't do this mini-game, but the rewards are good. Han has 3 minutes to find a specific cube among many. He starts the game, and the fairy is amazed by his fast hand movements, calling them the legendary 1,000 hands. Han moves quickly and solves the game. He successfully makes a well-forged longsword, rank C-. The fairy is shocked and admires Han even more. She is very excited. The new sword is strong, light, and sharp. Han achieves great success, crafting a balanced shortbow, rank C, a sharp long spear, rank C, and a solid steel shield, rank C. He wonders why they are all rank C with these materials. The fairy asks Han why he doesn't make more. Han explains that making more high-quality items would attract unwanted attention from the master. In the battlefield, Jenna shoots her arrow at a goblin, finding it much more powerful than her old weapons. She worries that newcomers might steal her weapon, but Han tells her that using the personal weapon option will prevent that. Han commands Eren to protect Jenna. As the monsters approach, Eren is frightened, causing his stats to decrease by 30%. Han defends with his shield while Eren swings his spear ineffectively due to his fear. Jenna slaps Eren to snap him out of it, warning him that failure means death. Han shouts at Jenna and Eren to stop freaking out and attack the monsters. Eren regains his composure and starts to fight. They battle hard, with Jenna shooting arrows, Eren using his spear, and Han wielding his shield and sword. Finally, they clear the stage. Eren levels up, and Han is named MVP. Eren, exhausted, tells Han he didn't perform well and worries about his future. Then, Eren is registered as a favorite by the Master. They see the message, realizing Eren will live, much to his surprise and relief. Jenna is happy to follow Han. Seeing that Eren has grown, Han returns to his room and thinks about his old team in Niflheim. The 5 members of Party 1 are all level 99 with 6-star ratings, equipped with divine weapons Han crafted and loaded with ultimate skills. Han wonders if he will meet them someday as he climbs the tower. Since this is an idle game, Submaster Cirrus will manage fine on her own, with Yslat as backup. Both are so smart and clear-minded that Han used to wonder if they were AI. Now he realizes they are not. At Niflheim, Yslat asks Cirrus if she is really planning on leaving. Cirrus responds that they need to utilize every second they have. Yslat tells her she can't offer much of a send-off, but asks her to take care of the investigation. Cirrus leaves Niflheim for the mission, trusting Yslat with the Master's whereabouts. Back at Han's location, the residence has leveled up to 2, increasing herd capacity. The cafeteria is complete, providing high-quality meals for the heroes. The training grounds are also level 2, improving training effectiveness. The armory's auxiliary buildings, the forge, woodshop, and refinement facility, have merged into the equipment workshop. The town square has advanced to level 2. Jenna and Eren are surprised by the upgrades. Han notes that the Master splurged a bit due to the varied responses and exciting battles. He can't help but feel that since he is a real human, the waiting room improves as they clear the floors. He notices the Master might be an office worker based on fixed activity times and occasional splurges. The fairy is happy that the Master spends more than a student. Han thinks Pick Me Up is not like other games that award gems for clearing missions and rarely have events that give away gems. With limited free gems, a pay-to-win player is appreciated. The Master summons 10 heroes. The summoning room shines, surprising Eren. Han tells his team to prepare to greet the newcomers. There are 2 summoning methods, using gold, normal summoning, and using gems, premium summoning. Premium summons are much more effective. The 10 newcomers are shocked and confused. Han uses his sword and tells them he will only explain things to those who survive on their own and get their act together. The fairy then asks for carpenters, blacksmiths, and tanners, continuing to ask their professions. Jenna wonders what the fairy is doing. Han explains that with the new facilities, they need to divide jobs. These newcomers cannot be combatants, so they need to do other tasks. The system within the waiting room will now change. The Master forms Party 2 with 4 newcomers. They have to grab their weapons first. Then, they go straight to battle. The fairy opens the gate and commands them to enter. If they can't adapt, they will be weeded out. The Master sends the newcomers to floor 1. Suddenly, one of them dies. Han and Jenna wait for the result of their battle. Jenna tells Han that the Master needs to explain things to them. Han replies that there's no need to waste an explanation on those who will perish on the lowest floor. A message appears. 2 more are down. Han tells his party members, Jenna and Eren, that at least 2 should survive. The fairy commands the next group of newcomers to enter the battle. They are shocked and frightened. Suddenly, Eren tells the fairy that he wants to fight with them. But the fairy tells him to stay out of this. It's not his turn. Jenna is surprised by Eren's fighting spirit. Han tells the fairy he recommends Eren fight with the newcomers to gain combat experience. Han tells Eren that helping is fine, but don't set a precedent like him. Eren understands what Han means. They enter the gate and battlefield. Jenna is bored and hungry. She wants to eat something different since she eats potatoes every day. Han thinks the Master is watching them. The Master can't hear the heroes' voices, but what heroes want appears on the game screen as messages. A few minutes later, Eren and the newcomers return, and no one died. Han and his members go back to their residence. The facility is better now with a cafeteria. Heroes can eat food as long as the master doesn't think they are useless. Jenna is happy because she can eat high-quality food like lamb steaks. Eren is content with a turkey boss, but the old man chef keeps giving them potatoes. He says there are no other ingredients. Jenna and Han are mad. Han knows this old man is lying to have an easy life. Han checks the old man's status and sees he has no cooking or culinary skills. Han tells a young woman named Chloe to take over the cooking duty. The old man complains. Han warns him not to lie and says this will be the only time he lets it slide. Then there is a lot of delicious food. Jenna is happy and wonders if only potatoes could make so many dishes. Chloe explains she used a variety of seasonings. Han warns all the newcomers, telling them what he already said. He repeats this to the next newcomers and new batch of newbies. If you don't want to die, follow what he says. During dinner, the newcomers are surprised by what Jenna says. She explains that she never fought until she came here and encourages everyone to work together. Two newcomers ask Han about their roles. Han answers that Enoch will be a carpenter and Chloe will be the chef. They will help the heroes in other ways. The old man lies, claiming he can help with woodwork. Han suggests he be the first sacrifice for synthesis. Han tells everyone that non-combatants have a higher rate of survivability, but they shouldn't get too comfortable. There are only a limited number of spots. If someone more gifted is summoned, they will be relegated back as combatants. The next day at the training ground, Han asks Jenna why only 3 newcomers are present. Jenna explains that the rest are panicking, trying to find a place to hide. Han, bored of fighting with Eren alone, decides to train with the 3 newcomers. The difference in their abilities is significant, like a child versus an adult. Jenna's beginner archery is already at level 5, and her shortsword proficiency is at level 2. Eren's spearmanship is at level 2, but his progress is slow despite his dedication. The 3 newcomers each attain level 1 swordsmanship. They band together closely, likely due to their similar ages. They tell Han he is very strong. Han explains that he is at a higher level, but they don't understand what that means. A few days later, there is another free 10x summon. This time, Han doesn't have to do anything. Eren and the trio take care of it, and only one person dies during the weeding process. Jenna notices the population is slowly growing. Han agrees and says it will grow even more. Jenna asks why the master hasn't moved to the 5th floor, even though it's been a while since they cleared the 4th floor. Han knows the 5th floor is on a whole different level. The remaining members of Party 1 haven't been decided yet. Every 5 floors, the difficulty spikes, similar to a boss level. Han knows there's a chance he might not survive. He doesn't see a reason to tell Jenna how tough it will get later on. On the 4th floor, the quest is to defeat all enemies. The enemies rush towards the players. First, 2 newbies and Eren stand at the front while Han commands from the back. Jenna supports with her arrows. Han tells them to stay calm, use their shields, and not attack unnecessarily. The newbies begin their attacks. The monsters target the front, and the newbies block with their shields. Eren attacks with his spear. Han doesn't join the battle because he can clear this stage by himself, but wants the team to practice their formations. The newbies and Eren clear the floor, with Jenna being the MVP. Han wonders what quest will be on the 5th floor, knowing there will be some he can't handle alone. The team returns to base, happy they cleared the floor. Han and Jenna smile at the newbies' excitement. The master has been logging in more frequently. After the second 10 pull, the master obtained a blacksmith and a tanner, activating the equipment workshop. The blacksmith, tanner, and carpenter create equipment, mostly E-rank swords and shields, boosting the new hero's survivability. The main party receives higher-ranked equipment. 3 underperformers are synthesized. They avoided training and sought escape, including an old man, Dolph, who lied about his class. A few days later, a newbie, eager for more, grabs his shield, ready for the next floor. Han asks the fairy about going to the 5th floor today. Jenna is surprised and wonders if they really have to go. Han leads them to the 5th floor. It's a bit different. Relaxing is good, but too much can be deadly. They enter the 5th floor, finding a destroyed city. Eren notes the absence of monsters, and Han orders the party to reach the city center and get in formation. The city is eerily empty, with no civilians or monsters. Han suspects the mission isn't subjugation. Suddenly, a newbie screams, terrified by a skeleton. Eren and Jenna see only empty buildings and dried blood stains. Han instructs Jenna to climb the bell tower and survey the city. She climbs and is shocked by what she sees. Eren asks what she sees. Jenna, in disbelief, carefully looks again. She tells Han that 1,000 goblins are outside the city, heading their way. The 5th floor quest is survival, requiring them to withstand the enemy onslaught. Eren, surprised, shouts back at Jenna, but she confirms seeing 1,000 goblins. Han tells Jenna to come down. Eren asks Han what to do. Han explains that this mission is about survival. They need to endure the goblins for a set time without entering buildings, moving to alleyways to avoid the main road. The chance of surviving a survival quest on lower floors is only 9%. This floor, infamous as the hero grinder, is especially dangerous for new heroes. Han stops in an alley. A newbie asks if there's a better spot, but Han explains that all the buildings are damaged, giving goblins openings. They don't have time to look elsewhere. They hold out in a T-shaped alley. Han instructs that the narrow passage means they only need to deal with one goblin at a time, so the number doesn't matter. Han says he'll handle the left entrance, Eren the right, and the newbies, Zid and Hansen, will take care of the back. They'll fight in turns, rest when needed, and avoid unnecessary help. Jenna is to stay in the center, saving her arrows until Han gives the order. They must build barricades quickly. If the goblins break through, they're doomed. The timer is 30 minutes. This stage runs on real time, and the timer starts when they first encounter goblins. A goblin arrives before the barricades are finished. Han swings his sword, killing it, but more goblins follow. Han commands them to use goblin bodies to build a wall. As more goblins come, Han keeps attacking. Jenna offers to help, but Han notices a pattern in the goblins' attacks: block and stab. They're predictable. Eren asks if they only need to hold out for 10 minutes. Han confirms, adding he never lies. They all struggle against the goblins. Han commands a newbie to switch positions, but the newbie resists, wanting to do more. Han insists, emphasizing efficiency. Han is low on stamina, and the team is unskilled. They tire easily. Han reminds them one strike is enough. Kill efficiently with minimal energy. He continues, angrily declaring the goblins are weak, just like those on the 1st floor. But there are too many. They keep coming. Han orders another switch and tells Jenna to help Zid and retrieve her arrows after each shot. Jenna starts shooting, aiming for the goblins coming through the openings. As goblins keep coming, Jenna pulls arrows from their bodies. Suddenly, a goblin hits Zid, causing him to bleed. Han commands a switch and tells the newbie to hold off the goblins. Han scolds the newbie, saying he'll be healed at the base, but Zid, frightened, has his stats drop by 30%. Despite the chaos, Han attacks more goblins and kicks Zid, urging him to stop crying. Zid gets a grip, and Han tells Jenna to stop Zid's bleeding. Han warns Zid that Hansen will die if he doesn't switch with him. Jenna stops Zid's bleeding, and Han continues to fight, kicking goblin heads away. Goblins keep coming. Hansen shouts that his sword isn't working. Han asks Zid to switch with Hansen. Zid, now able to fight, switches. Han notes that while it's better than the old F-rank sword, it's still just an iron sword. He tells Hansen that even without a blade, he can hit goblins with his shield, and Hansen kills a goblin with it. Han tells Eren to switch with Jenna. Eren hesitates, but Jenna insists he rest while he can and takes over, attacking goblins. Han shouts that 3 minutes remain. He wonders how 30 minutes can feel so long. He orders another switch. Eren with Jenna, Hansen with Zid. Jenna is running low on arrows, with only 4 left. Han realizes they're running out of arrows, but says they must use them all to avoid a breach. Jenna shoots 3 arrows, killing goblins from Hansen's side. Zid gets stabbed by a goblin and bleeds heavily. Jenna shoots the goblin that stabbed Zid. Zid collapses, critically injured, his life in danger.